Attention parents and coaches. Do you wish you had a safe social media platform for your youth athletes? Fortunately for you, there's a revolutionary new app that helps with just that. Introducing Small Player Big Play. Small Player Big Play app provides young athletes, parents, and coaches a user friendly sports social media platform. The app allows users to connect with friends, make new friends, create groups, text, chat, and post pictures and videos of you and your teammates participating in your favorite sport or activity. To begin, users can simply download and sign up for the app using an email account. Younger users have the ability to sign up using their smartphone and a parent's email address. From there, users can begin to interact and engage with other users of the app. Small Player Big Play app also gives users the ability to live stream full games and events. You can live stream your event so that friends, family, or anyone in the world can see you in action. Users can also share posts from the app to their other social media accounts like Facebook and Twitter. What are you waiting for? Get in the game and share your love of sports with the world. Download the Small Player Big Play app today.
You're listening to the Bulldog Hour, getting you inside the Wilson football program with weekly game previews, recaps, highlights, and interviews. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Bulldog Hour. I am one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and sitting, somewhere here in the studio is my co-host, Justin Raffoff.
Yeah, I guess next to, quote unquote.
Yes.
It takes on a whole different meaning now, but
That's not allowed.
Right. Close, but not too close. We'll just say
Exactly,
that.
yeah. And that's how we were Friday night, too, for
Exactly.
the first action of the Wilson football team in a long time. It feels like it's been years since we've seen them in action.
Right. I told you when we were standing there kind of getting things set up and everything, I said, man, on the drive over, I was really excited. I guess maybe I had just kind of resigned. Now, this wasn't last week, but like at some point I had just kind of resigned to like, this just may not happen. You know what I mean? Like, I guess I had realized and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is happening. Like, so, yeah, it was fun to be there and to be back in that setting.
Yeah, it was. It's been quite the journey over the last few months getting to this point. Kudos to the administration, the athletic department, the team, the players, the coaches, the athletic trainers, everyone that's done their job over the last 2+ months to do things safely, operate in the way that they should be, allowing the team to get back out onto the field and get to play their scrimmage against Cocalico, which we were going to talk about here on the show before we dive into our season preview. But you and I were both at the scrimmage Friday evening. You were operating the huddle camera, which we're going to take a look at how much better you've gotten in the last year using the huddle software. And I was able to get there to stream the game on our social platforms. That came about late and quickly, as I was not expected to be there, but I think it worked out well. It wasn't the best setup or best feed because I was trying to take photos while also stream the game. So trying to move both of those devices at the same time in unison while getting good pictures and a good live stream was difficult. Usually I have a partner to help me with that, but
It's all right. It's preseason for us
yeah,
too.
right. Everyone's warming up. So
That's
this
right.
is this is a dry run for the real thing, and the real thing is this Friday.
Well, it gets real in a hurry.
Really quickly. Not only do we get to kick off the regular season this Friday, September 18th, 7 o'clock at Gursky Stadium. It is against crosstown rival Governor Mifflin, and we'll have a lot to say about the Mustangs here in just a little bit. But let's do our normal start of the program housewarming stuff and just mention and thank our sponsors, who are May's Sandwich Shop and Small Player Big Play. You heard their advertisement at the top of the show. We appreciate the sponsors that are allowing us to bring the show to you once again. And we also have our anonymous donors as well. We're thankful for both of them. Both came back for another year, and I think we're now on one's been around pretty much since the start, and the other one's now I think we're at 3 or 4 years. So we appreciate the long-term anonymous donors as well. And besides donations and advertising, there's a couple other ways you can help us. Definitely visit the website and then spread the word. Like and share the social media accounts. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and please do visit the webpage bulldoghour.com. Our next live show will be next Sunday, a week from tonight, same time, same place, and we'll be recapping the game against Mifflin and then previewing the kickoff of the section play at Manheim Township that following Friday, which would be September 25th.
Two really big ones coming up right off the bat.
Yeah, so this is like the fourth different schedule I think I've shown on the show. We've only done 6 episodes of the season, but I think I've shown now 4 different schedules. The one way back when we had Chad on in February to kick off the 6th season. Now, obviously, that one didn't happen.
That seem like a long time ago?
That does seem like a very long time ago. That was a great show, too, because he had awesome pictures to share from Super Bowl week and after winning the Super Bowl. That was awesome. But that schedule, no longer. At that time, we also thought it was going to be Roman Catholic. Then that changed to Martin Luther King. Then everything happened, and we were like, well, none of this is happening. Who knows what's going to happen? And now we got to this point. So this is the schedule as we know it at the moment.
As of right now.
So September 11th, we just went through the scrimmage with Cocalico. This coming week, we play Mifflin Friday at home, then Manheim Township. Followed by, now this is all the same. This is the way it was because it's the section, the LL section stuff. This is identical. So if you had this in your calendar, you're good to go. October 2nd, host Penn Manor. October 9th, at McCaskey. October 16th, host Cedar Crest. October 23rd, host Hempfield. October 30th is where it gets a little dicey. Depending on how the playoff power ratings turn out, we could be playing at Manheim Central, which was the mandated crossover game with Section 2 of the Lancaster Lebanon League. That became the season finale when they moved the section finale to the week 2, the first game of your section competition. So those games got flip-flopped. September 25th and October 30th got flip-flopped. Why? Because October 30th is the district, I think for some might even be district championship week.
Maybe for the smaller schools.
For 6A, though, it is going to be the District 3 semifinals because District 3 at 6A level is taking only 4 of 18
flashback, right?
Schools. Yeah, this
although it was worse because it was only 4 divisions back then.
Right,
so
yeah,
you had a lot more schools and only 4 spots.
Yeah, so I believe we mentioned this on a previous show, but there are only 4 teams making the District 3 6A playoffs, and that first round, which will be the semifinals this year, is on October 30th. So should Wilson qualify, they will not play Manheim Central. That game will not happen. They would play in that Final Four. If Wilson does not qualify for the District 3 6A playoffs, they will play Manheim Central if they, I guess, don't qualify for the 5A playoffs.
In order for that Wilson-Manheim Central game to take place, both teams would need to miss out on the playoffs, 6A and 5A.
Correct. So that's October 30th. Again, one way, there's really 3 options. play it as designed. Both teams miss the playoffs, they play. We make the playoffs, play a playoff game. We don't make the playoffs when Manhattan Central does. We have to find another opponent. And District 3 is allowing that, and they're actually allowing teams that do not make the playoffs or make the playoffs but lose. You can schedule games in November to play more regular season games. Now, we have not talked to Coach Doms or Drew Kaufman about what Wilson is thinking. I don't think that's something that they want to discuss because everyone's focused on winning these games and making the playoffs.
Right, and I think I feel like the team is focused on obviously one game at a time, and I feel like honestly, the athletic department and league in general are kind of more focused on we're just looking to do things that we need to do like this week. Like let's take care of this week.
Yes.
We'll worry about next week, and kind of everybody's taking it one game at a time. You hear that a lot from teams, but I feel like a lot of people who have to make the larger decisions are also in that space right now. And you know what? For right now, that's fine. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But
right. But I just wanted to make sure everyone knows
absolutely.
that is available. It is on the table. There's a potential there to play 10 games with or without playoffs if the team and the athletic department are willing. So we'll see what happens, but that's a possibility. I have state playoffs listed there, 3. I don't know how many rounds there will be. I don't even know if they've finalized that yet. Things were going to look different this year anyways, which I went over in a previous show, I think back in June. But so much has changed since then. I don't know what the standings are, and right now it's just let's get these regular season games started and see where we go, where we end up. But yeah, this week is Mifflin, September 18th. It is at home. I do not know right now what the expectations are for spectators. We know that there was a plan added to the health and safety plan about Gursky Stadium allowing 609, but that was total people. So Wilson has to keep a running tab of their own personnel, which includes coaches, players, athletic trainers, managers, press box people, video crew, the away teams, cheerleaders, band. So there's not a lot of room if they abide by that 609 person.
Also, as soon as you start letting spectators in, and this is not saying against that, but the increased number of staff to work the game from a facility standpoint also increases a lot. Right. So it just, again, I don't have any information on that, but I'm sure that you will be sharing that information as it becomes available.
Right. As soon as I know, I will let everyone know. As of right now, I do not have, I don't know if I'm going to the game Friday, is how I should put it. Obviously, I'm more than willing to go so that I can provide game updates via Twitter and Facebook and take my pictures and get everyone involved in that way. Obviously, there will be a limited amount of spectators, if any are admitted at all. They're working on those numbers. I know there's media that want to be admitted, obviously local for sure, with it being Mifflin-Wilson. You would think the Red and Eagle would want a strong presence there, at least Mike Drago and a photographer. So, yeah, they're working on that, the administration and the athletic department. And I know for the scrimmage, 1 parent per player was given a ticket. That's where the ticket allotment went, both, I believe, for Wilson and Cocalico, because there were people in there.
They were in the stand, so I assume that's how it worked for them.
But. And, you know, everyone throwing wrenches in the plans because Wilson came up with which I thought was a great idea. I thought it was a great plan. Then the PIAA decided to throw a curveball by saying, please don't do that. I mean, it wasn't directed at Wilson. It was directed at everyone.
It was basically subtweeted at Wilson, though.
Please don't do that because they feel like they could lose some pull with the General Assembly, who's, you know, both sections of the Pennsylvania the House of Representatives and the Senate passed the bill with more than 2/3 votes to send it to Governor Wolf to allow school districts to set parameters for spectator attendance. He has said he will veto it. I don't know if he's going to. Once it gets sent back, they can pass it again. And if it's 2/3 again, it'll become a a law.
Right. Yeah.
However that works. It was House Bill. I forget the numbers. 2787 or something like that. So it had support the first time around to get past the governor's veto. And the PIAA, I think, wants everyone to wait until that happens. I have no clue how quickly that'll happen, though. So again, there's so much going on that you just have to let them operate and do their thing. And I will keep everyone updated as soon as I have the information. I don't know when that will be. It may not be until Thursday. It may not be till Friday morning, as was the case this past week. So, it is what it is. So just be patient. As soon as I know, you will know. I'm not sitting on this and waiting.
Likely
when I know,
story.
You will know. Right? Yeah. I'm just trying to.
You're just trying to time it so you can hit the right time with the big news.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. You know me. So. Yeah, so I think that pretty much covers all of that. Let's take a look if I can pull this up properly. We're just gonna play the scrimmage highlights in the background while we talk about it.
Okay.
Because you're not going to be able to see it, so we're just
Right.
going to discuss. I just have to pull it up here and get things moving. If I can. All right, here we go. Let's move this over. Hit play. All right, so Wilson hosted Cocalico for their scrimmage to open the 2020 season. Now, Cocalico is down in 4A this year, which we had talked about before the game together, where were the Eagles in the grand scheme of things? Because Wilson's established in 6A. Cocalico actually drops down to 4A for this 2-year cycle. So a little bit smaller program, but have been on the rise. They had been rising in numbers and also in strength. They've become a very solid program over the last 5 years or so.
Yeah, annually competing for that Section 2 title with Manheim Central.
Yeah.
They're usually right in that mix. That has been a huge game the last few years. There was a lot of changes in the program. I say that from the names. They had a longtime coach step down. Some other members of the coaching staff stepped down and retired after the season. But they hired from within. So while there were changes, it's not like it's a whole new system or anything. And it was interesting. I thought leaving that, I know this is jumping ahead, but looking at it, I'm like, I think Cocalico is going to have another solid year in Section 2.
Absolutely.
It's a lot different. They don't have, they have a good number of guys for a 4A team, and it's just different when you're going against a school that is likely, Wilson's probably twice the size of Cocalico. I know they're only a couple different, but Wilson graduates roughly 500 kids a year now, give or take. I find it hard to believe Cocalico is much more than 250 a year. You know what I mean? Those numbers really start to spread out when you get up to the 6A level. You have some that are around 300. Some, I guess Mifflin's in the low 300s.
It's 370.
Okay, yeah.
Mifflin was one student away from making it into 6A.
Right, and then you also have schools like Reading and North Penn that have over 1,000 a grade.
2,000.
Right.
That's what's okay. See, you're talking graduating classes.
Yeah, you're talking mail enrollment.
I'm talking mail enrollment from 9th to 11th grade. So we're saying the same thing. We're just using different numbers to convey what we're talking about. But yeah, so Cocalico is maybe not quite half the size of Wilson, but very close.
Right.
So this wasn't an ideal scrimmage for either team. You generally want to. We're normally playing Parkland.
Right.
That's usually, and that's pretty good comparison.
Right.
Wilson to Parkland. It allows us to step up a little because I believe Parkland's larger than Wilson is.
Yeah. I feel like they're more like the size of Hempfield and stuff like that.
Yeah, so a little bit bigger than us. But they had actually dropped us and we were going to play Phillipsburg, but they're in New Jersey. And during this pandemic thing that's going on, did you hear about that?
Yeah, I think I've heard about it someplace, yeah.
Obviously, that wasn't going to happen. Then when the season got pushed back and the LL changed how things were going to be operating, they pretty much, I think, picked who your scrimmage opponent was going to be.
Yeah. And they did it, I think, a lot by geographical location. And Cocalico pretty much happens to be the closest, and that decided that.
There was a neat little link, though, because former offensive line coach, a long time assistant coach, Jeff Brubaker's son, is, I believe, a junior I think a junior.
Yeah, I
on
don't
the
know. I've
Cocalico
lost
team.
track, but
Uh, a two-way defensive lineman, very good young player, and so just a nice little Wilson connection there. But we skipped over the JV video, but this is the varsity film that we've been watching here. I believe Wilson allowed a couple big plays in that first 10-10 series. Didn't allow Cocalico into the end zone, but here, as you see right now, we get to see, I believe that was junior running back Jaden Jones take one in from about 35 yards out. He had a couple big plays on the evening. He looked very, very good.
He had a couple of nice plays on defense, too.
And he did have very nice plays on defense. There's going to be a play here towards the end where I think it was, did he score or did he get pulled down right before the end zone where he scored, didn't he? He made his tackles miss in the backfield and then went all the way around.
I think so.
Yeah, so we got to see some big plays from Jaden Jones and quarterback Caleb Brown.
Man, on his run, he took off.
Both of them looking very fast, very, very agile, very quick, and they're gonna need that as the offensive line gels because it's so early in camp and they haven't had a ton of time. They're still trying to figure out, well, who is definite the starting five, and learning the system. Now, it's not changed all that much, but we talked about it being another new offensive line coach. And it's you're replacing all 5 starters. So you're asking a lot of a very important unit that hasn't had time or the repetitions to gel.
I think, and I really think only one of the guys who is playing, Chase Walters, got time last year.
Yeah, he was kind of the primary reserve, especially a tackle, and also what we would call the Marine guy, the extra offensive lineman that could check into the game.
Right. So he being under the lights is not new for him. In his role, it will be new for him. But yeah, the other guys, there's some guys who this is going to be their first varsity action. I think maybe for most of the other guys, except for some spots here and there. But yeah, so it could be interesting. Like you said, they need to come together, and it was a good first step on Friday night. They were able to get some things going, but there was definitely times where you could see, all right, we need to, that, I don't know, it could be anything. It could be a play. It could be the look the defense gave. Usually you're not getting too exotic of a look in the scrimmage, but just types of things like that. Definitely some things to work on, but there were definitely some spots where they looked really good too. So
yeah, I mean, it's kind of what you expect how the scrimmage went.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a team that most people would favor in a regular season game. I would think Wilson would probably be favored. In the end, they scored more than Cocalico. But again, it's just a scrimmage, and we made note. I'm not really sure what's going on here. I'm sure it's probably that huddle recording guy that
probably is.
He probably didn't do something right. Let's see.
There's probably the guy up there that was bumping stuff all over.
Oh, that guy was annoying too. But for the 10 and 10s, the beginning of the varsity scrimmage, each team does 10 offensive plays, 10 defensive plays, and they do that 2 or 3 times, regardless of the outcome. Doesn't matter if it's a touchdown or a turnover, whatever. The team remains with possession until you get to 10 plays. Wilson on offense and defense, I don't think ever really had their whole cohesive unit or the expected starters to play together.
Right, and they were moving a lot of guys in and out.
Every 5 plays, I think.
Right,
they kind of rotated guys.
And on defensively, sometimes there were huge package changes on those, So trying to I can't speak there's lots of things you're looking for as a coach in those scrimmages, and you're watching individual guys, you're watching how guys work together at certain positions, and how things are kind of coming along, after that first real week of practice. So there's definitely some things that they're certainly looking for. I kind of think to spring training sometimes for baseball, when a pitcher might give up some hits, but they were working on a specific pitch, and it can happen, and you're working on specific things. You want to see certain guys in certain scenarios.
Right.
So as long as you can learn from those experiences, then the scrimmage is the perfect opportunity to I don't want to say make the mistakes. You don't want to
No,
make the mistakes,
right.
but if you're going to make the mistakes, make
Make 'em
them
when-
early
when
and
it
learn
doesn't
from them.
count, yeah.
Right. Make them early and
Right.
learn from them.
Make a mistake and then correct it, and don't let it happen again. Like that's learning.
Yes.
You're
Literally.
not making mistakes, you don't have anything to learn. You already know it all.
Right.
So if you are making mistakes, you have areas to improve, and that's how we get better. I think my biggest negative takeaway, not that we like to focus on negatives, and this was a consistent thing from JV through varsity, was exchanges between the center and the quarterback. Now Wilson's not, I'm not sure they were under center at all, so it's all pistol or shotgun, and they were either bad snaps or not great snaps that were bobbled or not covered. There were some that were super high, some that were low. So center and quarterback have to get on the same page. They need the there need to be a lot of repetitions for that, because that is something that can severely hamper your offense if you're recovering a fumble, you lose a play, or
Yeah.
you could turn over the ball
Like
without them having to do anything to earn it.
Right. Yeah. Like, and I think that some of that, and this is what perfect example. Some of that could be, this is the first time you're going up against other guys across from you. There's lots of stuff you're thinking of your line calls and things like that. So those are things that, all right, that happened in the scrimmage. I'm sure it's going to be, a focal point and make it better.
Yeah.
That's not to say you're never going to mess up. Like, that's not what it is, but you have to make steps towards improvement, and you're heading in the right direction. And that's really, like you said, you're learning from it. That's literally what it is, and make the best of it. But cut down on the mistakes and start putting it together.
Now, I know you can't see the video, but we are in the game situation now where they played 12 or 15 minute.
12.
Was it 12? Okay.
Yeah.
They played 2 12-minute quarters, just like they would during a game. There was down and distance. There was officials calling penalties. Plays were being called from the sideline. If you got a first down, you kept going. If you scored, the drive is over. You turned it over, the drive is over.
You could punt.
It was exactly like a game. So we got to see now, this is when you started to see the starting units actually show up. So you had your expected 11 starters on offense and defense, at least for like the first series or two.
Yeah.
And then they started the mixing.
Still lots
guys.
of mixing, yes.
But it was nice because we got to see, a cohesive unit finally. And it wasn't perfect, but it looked pretty good.
Yeah.
They gained some big plays. They gave up a few big plays.
Right.
But this is really where you got to see the athleticism and the explosiveness of the offensive guys, specifically Caleb and Jaden for sure really stood out. Mason too. Mason looked very good on offense. And I think besides the guys that we've already mentioned, is there anyone else that stood out to you as not necessarily having an amazing scrimmage, but someone that you saw out there that you weren't expecting to see? Or maybe just a guy that did stand out that we haven't talked about.
Oh, man.
I can go first if you want me
to.
you
go first.
I wasn't sure who was going to fill the spot opposite Mason at cornerback. You needed a guy there. We didn't know. We knew Troy was back at safety. Right. We've heard that Caleb's also going to be spending time in the defensive backfield. And Mason was back. So you needed probably at least one other guy. And at least based on the game situation, that guy could be sophomore defensive back Cameron Jones, who is Jaden's younger brother, which is awesome to see because he's a great kid and an incredible athlete. He's getting time at quarterback and receiver and offense, but he could really make a name for himself on defense. And for him to have the opportunity possibly to start as a sophomore at such a critical position, and one that Wilson has struggled at a bit over the last few years, that was really, really great to see. And I hope it continues in that direction and he has the opportunity and he solidifies himself as a starter there.
Yeah, that would be cool. I thought in general from maybe like the defensive ends and outside linebackers kind of as a whole, as those positions, I thought they did a fairly good job. Like you said, there were some plays where it broke down, but in terms of the contain from the outside, Cocalico likes to do a lot of runs, like in outside runs, And I thought they did a fairly good job of, like, the speed. I was impressed with being able to kind of stretch things out and not get beat around the edge. There were definitely some times where it didn't happen, but you're going to have that. I could kind of talk to that point. I feel like, I think it was Carson Nash, the quarterback for Cocalico.
I can't remember his name. We lost the video again.
But I was impressed. Good sized kid. It's going to be interesting for Cocalico because they're losing. Seemingly, I don't follow the Cocalico program super closely, but losing a legend, in Noah Palm, was their starter multiple years, maybe 3 years.
I think at least 3.
And on two sides of the football, he led that team to great things. They make the state semifinals.
They won the district, didn't they? Did they
right.
win the district?
I think they went into states last year, and may have won a game or two. I don't know the exact setup. But they were playing for a long time last year.
Just got to see a touchdown run by Caleb there.
So, just seeing that, I thought the defense did a fairly good job of stringing that out. Which, listen, you're gonna have to be stout against the run this Friday,
right?
Because if not, it'll be a long night.
Yeah,
and I know it's not exactly the same. I'm not saying it's exactly the same, but you're gonna have to be ready to go this week.
Yes, we are very shortly going to be talking about the Mustangs. So, anything else to say about Cocalico?
Like you said,
scrimmage in general.
Overall, I thought it was a good first step. It kind of let them know where they were, let the coaches know. When we were down there after the game, you could hear the coaches kind of talking, they were already talking to guys on, this is what you need to do better. This is what you need to do better. And I'm sure as they looked at film and started, getting ready even more for this Friday, that there's plenty of things for them to work on this week, but it's not like they're starting from scratch. You know what I mean? That's the last thing you want when you come out of a scrimmage or a game sometimes, and you're like, all right, back to the drawing boards. I didn't have any of those moments, coming out of Friday night. So I'll take that as a win, build off of what we got there, and be ready to go and give it your best shot on Friday night.
Well, that's a good play to end on here. It was Caleb's second touchdown run. The first Wilson offensive play immediately after the defensive back breakdown that allowed Cocalico to score on a big play. Caleb runs a nice I believe read option, and he takes it to the house. I think 70 yards.
He was flying.
He looked really good. He looked really good, especially on the ground.
Yeah.
Very, very strong performance from him, and Jack Wagner got to kick a few extra points, and we know what to expect from him on Friday nights, especially in the kicking game. So. A lot of good stuff. Obviously, stuff to work on. It's early, but it's coming at you fast now. You don't have any more dress rehearsals. This is the time to shine, and they get to welcome in the Mustangs this Friday evening, and it's a pretty stacked.
It's a daunting task right off the bat.
The Governor Mifflin comes to West Lawn. After last year finishing 8-4, but they went 6-0 in Burke Section 1. They qualified for districts. Their head coach is Jeff Lang. This is his 4th season. I know we were talking about that the other day. Trying to figure out, when was it? So he took over in 2017, which was his first year as the official long-term head coach.
Was 2015 maybe the year he coached almost on the interim?
I thought that was 2016.
Okay, I didn't know if it was back to back or not. I thought there was a year where he came back and then I don't know. I don't remember. But he's been there forever as well. So it's not him being there is nothing new. Him being in charge as the guy is, like you said, this is his 4th year.
So their biggest loss, they lost Colby Reeser at quarterback.
Yeah.
From the team last year, and Connor Marinayak is stepping in at that position for them. But the big gun is obviously Nick Singleton, who has been destroying records for 2 years now. He's only a junior this year, has 30 or so offers from
Big
top
time
Division One
Division I
football
offers.
teams. They also bringing back Brandon Strasser, Zach Parsons, Aiden Martin, who started as a freshman for them, and then another big guy in Cameron Stewart, who's going to Rutgers.
Right.
And Mike Drago mentions that other key offensive players are Trey Rock, Greg Suber, Devontae Phillips, and Dominic Scheide along the offensive line. When you can roll out Singleton, Strasser, and Stewart without mentioning any of those other guys, that's a pretty strong trio right there at incredibly important positions in the Mifflin offense.
Yeah, you're back. Well, is Cameron Stewart technically a tight end?
Yes.
Okay. But they find ways to get him the ball. When you have two skill player Power 5 football players, like Division I Power 5 conference level players, yeah, that's going to stand out. I know we talk all the time about back when we were in school, and Cedar Crest had the year where they had maybe
Brandon
3.
Kirsch,
I think,
Jaron Hayes.
right. And I think
they had a receiver who went to
Right.
D1 school too.
Right. So like they had a number of guys that went D1 all off the same squad, and like just how that stood out. And McCaskey had a few,
Mm-hmm.
So like it was just interesting. And here's Mifflin sitting with a couple big time players, and
Yeah.
like you said, Singleton's only a junior, but doesn't play like it.
No, right.
So
and Singleton is going to get looks on defense this year, which he played, I believe, sparingly last year. They saved him mostly for offense, but now that he's a junior, he's going to get some time, probably at cornerback. Brandon Strausser was the Burke Section 1 linebacker of the year, and Cameron Stewart was the Burke Section 1 defensive lineman of the year, both back. So 2 defensive MVPs are back for your defense, and they got stronger as the year went on. We all know that Wilson went to Shillington last year and obliterated the Mustang.
Right.
Like, you can't put it any other way.
Right.
It was a shellacking. Wilson was up 61-0 at one point. Mifflin could not do anything to stop the Wilson offense, and they couldn't penetrate the Wilson defense until the third string was in.
Right.
When you're talking, the JVs were playing against the Mifflin varsity, and they were able to score points. That's how they got their points. So Mifflin is certainly going to be out for a little vengeance after the way things went down last year. And when you are returning a handful of key big name guys,
you've got the guys to try and pull that off.
Right.
Like,
so
if you needed guys to come in to Wilson and do it, they certainly have the guys to do it.
Right. And you're also, their offense is unique. It's a high school type offense. Not many collegiate programs use it, and obviously no NFL programs use anything like it. And if you don't have the right defensive mentality and discipline or strength, you're going to have a long day.
You're going to have a long day if you have quote unquote average guys in the backfield. Like if you don't play well and disciplined against this style of offense, it's going to be a long day. When you put Division I guys back there, you have to be on top of your game.
Yes. So honestly, I mean, Reading Eagle doesn't do any kind of spreads, but
No.
Lancaster or Lebanon papers do, and I assume if any of those do the Wilson Mifflin game, I would fully expect Mifflin to be favored in this game.
Yeah, I bet Reiner will probably touch on this, and honestly, Penn Live may, just because I believe Mifflin is ranked in the state.
They are
At
8th
5A,
in
right.
Class 5A.
Yeah,
So there's a lot of hype surrounding Mifflin this season. I mean, they're 56-2 in the last 9 years in Burke Section 1. They return all those guys that we just talked about. I fully would expect them to be favored in this matchup because of where Wilson is breaking in new guys. Wilson has a ton of talent back, but where they're breaking new guys in, mostly along the offensive line, what Mifflin has back,
including along the defensive front,
right?
I
think Mifflin would be favored in this game.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
So they're expected to win Burke Section 1 again this year. I don't know if anyone's going to be close to them in Burke's 1. Maybe Exeter, possibly Berks Catholic because they bumped up, but I think Mifflin is definitely the team to beat there.
Yeah, I would be surprised, especially with, and I know this year's crazy, but how it seems like, well, it's not seemingly. Mifflin has pushed themselves as well with their non-conference schedule, or non-league schedule. Sorry, the last few years, and so like they've had some tough starts, and then they come out and they play really well, like basically from mid to late September through the end of the year and well and into the playoffs. So like they hit their stride as the year's going on, and I know it's a condensed season and there's not as much time for that, but I think they're gonna be ready to hit the ground running, literally and figuratively, on Friday night. Wilson has to be up for the task because, like you said, you are absolutely going to get their best shot. That's how this whole rivalry game goes anyway. Like sometimes, like you mentioned last year, that is the anomaly. That it happens every now and then where just something, it just gets rolling and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Like they could play a bunch of times even last year, and you might get, like, Wilson may still win some outcomes. I don't think you're going to see many exactly like that. You know what I mean? Just I would take it, but like, I just don't think that's how that always plays out. Whereas, they're going to be ready. They're going to be trying to show that was, not the norm, and that they're ready to go. And I'm sure they want to do the same thing to us on Friday.
Yeah. I mean, no matter how the season played out, the first game was always going to be tough, because if it wasn't Mifflin in this pandemic restructuring, it was going to be Central Dauphin,
right?
Who last year went to the state championship game, that obviously won District 3 and 6A. Now, we had beaten them at the beginning of the year, but they were a completely different team by the end of the year.
Do you remember that game? Where we just ran it? We ran like a 9-minute drive in the fourth quarter.
It was crazy. Now they lost some guys, but they also have
returned their quarterback who's only a junior this year,
and their running back now, Timmy Smith, is a senior this year for Central Dauphin.
They'll get another,
right? Yeah, because it's Central Dauphin. They just
crazy stud back there. Yeah.
So that was supposed to be our first game. Right. Now you get Mifflin. That was going to be a heck of a back-to-back gauntlet there. Oh, but now we're just here's Mifflin, and then we got Manheim Township. Right. So Manheim Township is our second game, and while they're not the team of 2017 or 2019, they have Wilson's number at the moment, winning 3 of the last 4 against Wilson. The only hiccup was 2018. We went to their place and beat them 16-14, but in 2017 they ended the section streak, the section winning streak, and then won in the playoffs. Both at Manheim Township. We beat them the next year at their place, but then they came to West Lawn last year and beat us. So they've won 3 of the last 4 meetings. They've won the last 3 section championships. Of course, the one in 2018 was shared with us in Warwick, but Township is the team in Section 1 at the moment, which is tough to say after from 2008 through 2016, 2006 through 2016, like whatever it was Wilson. So now you haven't won an outright section championship since 2016. You get to set the tone early by taking on Manheim Township. Mark Evans is now here. This is his 9th year with the Township program. Under him, they're 68-29.
Most of those 29 were in the first few years.
Right. You're absolutely correct about that. So they were 6-0 last year, 11-1 overall. They lost to Central Dauphin by a point in the quarterfinals of the playoffs last year. They played Manheim Central in the scrimmage this past Friday. That was pretty evenly contested. Again, it's tough with it being a scrimmage of who you're playing, but both those teams, both Manheim teams, Township and Central, replacing a ton of departed starters. I think Township actually replaced 21 out of 22 starters, and Central was replacing, I think, 20 out of 22 starters. So both teams very fresh, very new, but both teams, Central's been there for a while, but now Township's at the point where, like we always talk about Wilson, they're just reloading. Yeah. They're not rebuilding, they're just reloading. They have the next group of juniors and seniors just stepped up, ready to go, and every so often they find that freshman or sophomore who can just step onto the field and can compete like he's been there for a few years already. So it'll be interesting to see how Township fills in those spots. They lost everyone. The only big guy back is Anthony Ivy, and unfortunately, we saw a lot of him last year. He's another big time Division I recruit, and he is back for them. So.
I believe that Penn State offer came 2 days after our
it
game.
was right after he played Wilson last year, yes. So their new quarterback is Evan Clark. We'll see what he's able to do. Gone are the Emgees, both the twin linebackers and running backs. They're gone. So not a lot to say about the personnel they have because they're all fresh. Right. We don't know much about them. But obviously, like we've established, they are the team to beat with Wilson. So we'll find out early who's going to control Section 1. Yeah,
and because with that game being the first of the Section 1 games, the winner is in the driver's seat. Yeah. You know, and now this will be interesting because did I read that Manheim Township's Week 1 game is LaSalle?
LaSalle College High School, yeah.
Right. So now they're typically a District 12 team,
they're
right?
Playing an independent schedule, yeah.
So do they still count as a PIAA team? I would imagine because it's just their league. Like they're not. It's not like they.
Yeah. It's not like they're playing teams from Maryland and Delaware and New Jersey.
Right. Which they may, but like if they're opting into that, you know what I mean? Like that was the only thing was just saying. It would be interesting if it's not because of just the 4 teams that go in 6A. Like, I don't know how that's going to work. Again, that's just an issue for later in the year.
Right,
like, because they're part of a league that has opted not to play.
But they're playing
But they are part of the PIAA. And as far as I understand, like, the schools are what opt into the PIAA, not necessarily the leagues. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know. That's getting up to a level that I don't and haven't really been there before and don't really care to go there. So it was just one of those things that I thought about. But yeah, so they have a couple tough games, you know, if you count Wilson in that group. Wilson has a couple tough games right off the bat. But hey, in that condensed schedule, you're going to see it even more. But in reality, you got to handle it just like you would any other time. You know, a couple years ago we went to the 1 scrimmage model. You know, we didn't have the 2 scrimmages anymore, so that's not really different in that regard. You know, playing Mifflin, a few years ago we used to play them the first game of the season all the time, and then the change with when the season started, but keeping them on the holiday weekend was made. But you know. We'll be ready to go, hopefully.
So after Township, Wilson hosts Penn Manor. Comets struggling of late. They haven't been to the playoffs since 2014. They went most of the tenure of their former coach, but since his departure. They have not been able to do too much under former Manheim Central.
Played us tough in the first half last year.
Yeah, assistant John Brubaker. 6th season, they have only won 9 of 50 games. They were 1-5 in Section 1 last year. They scrimmaged Elko this past week, and it was pretty even based on what I've read about it. And they get to open their season versus Warwick this Friday night in Millersville.
Who returns their quarterback and a Division I lineman.
Yes. Ooh, let's not touch on that one.
Yeah, I was going to say Wisconsin recruit. But
I mean, they were young last year, so them hanging tough against some teams early.
Yeah, because we talked about that. That was one of those where you look at that starting lineup, and it was 10th grade, 11th grade, 10th grade, 11th, 10th. You know, like they were kind of like wholesale. Listen, we're building this for the next couple years, not just this year.
So their quarterback is back. Luke Brost is back. Wide receiver Kyle Murr, Isaac Hofstetter, both come back after contributing last year, especially Murr. Isaiah Stoltzfus at running back, and a handful, or not quite a handful, of offensive linemen return as well. And of course, those guys play on the defensive line too. So they have a good Good mix of returning players back. They weren't decimated like Township or Manheim Central, as we've talked about. Again, I think it comes down to the teams that they're playing against. I think they might have a decent amount of talent, maybe one of the better teams in John Brubaker's seasons that they've been there, but they got to run the Section 1 gauntlet. They haven't been able to do that now for half a decade. You know, they were that team to beat, right there with Wilson from 2009 to 2013, right in there, 2014, something like that.
Right.
Like there's a 4 or 5 year period where Penn Manor was the team. That was the game.
Yeah.
And
we played them twice, at least one of those years, maybe a couple of those years where we placed them in the playoffs too.
Yeah. But not a lot expected from Penn Manor, at least to start. Then after that game, following Penn Manor game, I wanted to mention this. Manheim Township will be streaming the game against Wilson.
Okay.
Themselves. I do not have any information on that other than it is happening. So again, obviously, as the game approaches, I will let everyone know how they can watch.
When you have that information, you will share it.
I don't know if it'll be free. I don't know if it'll be pay-per-view. I don't know any of that. All I know is that Manheim Township is streaming their games.
Well, when you decide, let us know.
When I decide. Which, the only reason I mentioned that is because McCaskey also streaming their games. So, McCaskey will have their games online. Now, again, don't know how you're going to be able to watch it. If you'll have to pay for it, I don't know. But McCaskey also plans to stream their games. And as I get that information or know how you can access it, I will let everyone know. That game is on October 9th. Head coach Sam London is back for his second year. They did not win a game in his debut season, going 0-10, not winning anything, unfortunately for them. They scrimmaged, I think, Lebanon this past week, but I did not hear much about that scrimmage. They open up with Elizabethtown this Friday before hosting Cedar Crest in week 2, and then Hempfield the week before they welcome us to Lancaster. They haven't had a winning season since 2010, according to Jeff Reinert's research here, and that's the last time they made the playoffs as well. So it's been a little bit of a rough decade for the McCaskey football team. And I think last year they may have been starting a freshman at quarterback at times. I believe he is back for them. I could be wrong, though, because they shuffled a lot of guys at quarterback over the last few years. But some of the big names back include Jasir Williams. I remember him in the secondary. He was electric back there. And Matthew Remash at quarterback, Jose Garcia at running back, Davian Scarborough at receiver, and Cameron Hiller, also another flashy running back. So not only did they not win a game last year, losing all 10, they lost the final 7 in 2018 as well. So they have lost 17 in a row, according to Jeff Reinert.
Yeah, but a team that has rallied and really fought for their right to have a chance to play this year, or fought for their chance to play this year. So it's tough. Yeah, I'm not rooting for them to have a lot of success against us.
Right.
But
anywhere else,
I hope okay. I hope they do. I hope they have a positive season, get a couple wins. That would be huge for the coach, for the program. You know, yeah, that would be cool. Again, be careful what you wish for, but I think that would be cool for them. And that's a perfect example of one of those. We remember when they were really good, and when they're really good, that's good for the LL League, you know. So, you know, here's hoping their coach can turn it around. But like you said, they're in a tough spot right now.
So next week, Wilson returns home to play back-to-back home games against Cedar Crest and Hempfield. Cedar Crest is led for the 7th season by Rob Wildassin. He's 34-29 overall. They had some success when they were down in Section 2 for a few years, back up in Section 1. I believe now this is the second part of a 2-year cycle, so I think this is the 3rd year Cedar Crest is in Section 1. Haven't been as strong there, but they did make the playoffs last year before they lost to Central.
They had a
Dauphin.
really strong start last year.
They were 7-4 overall, 3-3 in Section 1.
Right.
So yeah, I think they started 4-1 or something like that. Something around there, because their crossover game wasn't always that fifth game,
right.
Fourth or fifth game. So yeah, they were 7-4 overall, and they lost to Central Dauphin in the playoffs. They suffered kind of like Wilson. Graduation hit them hard on the offensive line. They have only one guy back there. They do have a return at quarterback in Chris Dans. And while Tyler Cruz is gone, he was their great running back last year. Aiden Richards is back as a stud at running back and linebacker. He takes over the full-time job from Cruz. But they do have 7 of their 11 defenders back, so that's good for their defense. And, they get a few games under their belt before they have to come to West Lawn. Like I said, Hempfield is the next game, and a familiar face on the sideline there, Justin.
Yeah, George Egger is the head coach this year. Taught at Wilson for a little bit, helped with coach at Wilson, and then took a job at Hempfield a few years ago. Has been on the staff there, and there were a number of applicants for that job, and he emerged. So an in-house hire. Young guy, but hopefully can build on some of the things that they had, but is looking to take that program back to the next level. And there's something to be said to be the coach and to be in the building. And he teaches at Hempfield, so I like George. Again, I hope he has some success, just not necessarily against us.
So he's only 33, youngest coach in the LL League. Hempfield last year under Zyber was 2-4, 4-6 overall, and they're kind of like your average high school team. Kind of replacing about half of their guys throughout. They do have a couple of their offensive linemen back, and Hempfield's kind of known for their big, powerful offensive line. So center Aiden Power and offensive tackle Will Alexander return for them, as does their running back Tanner Hess, who was nearly over 1,000 yards rushing last year, and he had 16 touchdowns as well. It'll be interesting to see what they do under center. Cam Harbaugh is the guy to watch. He filled in last year at times. It'll be interesting to see what George Egger is able to do for them, because Hempfield is like a sleeping giant in Section 1. If they get the right mix of coaching and dedicated players, they should be out.
We use that term for them all the time. We are not the only ones. Everyone I talk to refers to them in that same manner of like sleeping giant. They are a massive school. I think, again, I'm going by graduating class size here is usually, I believe, over 700, which makes them a big, big school, especially for the LL League. They may be the biggest in the LL League,
right?
And then you've got you have a lot of support there. It's just one of those things where we'll see if Coach Egger can get it done. Like you said, he's going to bring some enthusiasm, and he's a young guy getting his first head coaching job, as far as I know. I think so, because I think he came to Wilson maybe right out of school.
Yeah, F&M, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And he graduated from Manheim Township, so Hempfield Manheim Township games are already interesting.
Right, for all I know, he was on staff there first. Like, I don't know that he came. Okay, so he was there, and then he came to Wilson, and then he went to Hempfield. Man, talk about being in the powers of Section 1.
Powerhouses of Section 1.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. And by the time we play them, you should have an idea of what they're trying to do and what they're going to look like under him, at least for this first year. So, it would be interesting. Like in that first, who do they have week 1? Do you know?
Oh, I don't know.
That's okay. I did. Just because like sometimes when you get those new coaching systems, like it'll be very interesting. We also talked a lot about this at different levels of football, but this will be a tough year to take over a program.
Oh yeah.
Because all the stuff you had like planned up and thought about in your interview to become the head coach goes out the window because spring football was gone and the first third of your summer was gone, and just
not an easy moment at all.
Right.
So that is your non-league preview, which is just Mifflin, and then your Section 1 preview, which is Township through Hempfield. And we're not going to talk about Manheim Central because I think the odds of us playing them aren't high.
Right.
Because obviously we hope and expect to make the playoffs. Manheim Central does too.
Right.
So it's no sense in talking about them.
Right. Not to throw this out, but like, when is the last time that Wilson nor Manheim Central made the playoffs? Like in the same year.
That's a very interesting question.
Right.
If I had access to Manheim Central history,
I'm not sure it's happened. Like, it may have, because those playoff numbers were so small back in the day.
Right.
Like,
well, Wilson hasn't missed the playoffs since 2004, right?
Right. So it's at least then, and you go back then, you're in the Manheim Central heyday.
No, not 2004. Might have been 05.
Okay. Either way, you're still in the Manheim Central heyday. Like, that's close to the teams that were winning the state title at Manheim Central.
Right.
And then they had the runs where they were playing Strathaven every year and Berwick the years before those, and so like, you'd have to go back a long way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because I know they
possibly before the Hempfield coach was born. Like,
yeah, it wasn't 2004 for Wilson. Was it maybe? It was 2005. They 7-3 overall, 5-2 in Section 1. Did not make the playoffs. So last time Wilson missed the playoffs was 2005.
Okay.
I don't know about Manheim Central, so that's an interesting one. Anyone out there listening, watching, that knows the results of Manheim Central every year, whether or not they made the playoffs, be interesting to see when's the last time neither Wilson or Manheim Central made the playoffs.
Right.
It's not happening this year.
No, it's not.
Happening
No, absolutely not.
So it'd just be an interesting fact to know.
Right.
All right, before we wrap things up, we do want to give one more moment to one of our sponsors, the Small Player Big Play app.
Introducing Small Player Big Play app, the all-sports social media app for young athletes. Live stream events for your friends and family who can't be there. At home or at work, they can watch your streaming on their phones or on TV by using a mirroring device or AirPlay 2. Download the app from the App Store or Google Play and create an account using a valid email address. That's it. Now you can find friends, join groups, or make new ones. You can upload and watch your own content for free. Watch YouTube uploads for free. Even more streaming options are available with our subscription plans and in-app purchases. Download the app and start sharing with the world your passion for sports today.
All right. So thanks again to May's Sandwich Shop, Small Player Big Play, and our 2 anonymous donors for helping keep the lights on here at the Bulldog Hour. Justin, anything else to say about the scrimmage or the upcoming season?
No, just kind of what you mentioned before, just kind of loop back to that. You don't expect the scrimmage to be perfect, but I liked some of the things I saw, and obviously there are things to work on. Identify your mistakes. They literally are probably working on that right now, or at least when we started the show right around that time, like working on that and getting to work this week and put your work in. Play disciplined football on Friday night, do your job, and play hard and hope for the best on Friday.
Yep. Want to know. That's the focus. Want to
That's right.
know. Win your first game, the opening game of a weird year, against your rival who you know is stacked and ready to play. Just be the better team. Go 1-0. And like Justin said, fix your mistakes, learn, and get ready to buckle up. I mean, really, Wilson's toughest stretch is the first 2 weeks. Not that you should take the other 4 teams lightly before the playoffs.
But looking at it, the schedule, they're the best 2 teams they're going to play on paper are the first 2 weeks.
Or expectations or history says Mifflin and Township are the 2 teams.
All available evidence
about.
Points to those 2 being the toughest teams.
Now, maybe one of those other teams will step up and be tough.
Absolutely.
Could it be Cedar Crest or Hempfield? Maybe.
That's a problem for future Justin and Joey.
that's a problem for future Doug.
Yes, exactly.
Current Doug is concerned about Mifflin.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's not disappoint current Doug.
Right.
So let's take care of business. We were hoping to have some assistant coach interviews tonight, but just the way things are going, it wasn't ideal circumstances, and we couldn't get anyone that was that interested to talk to us. Our normal interviews will be back as long as we have access to the coaches and players. So we'll see how that goes. But we do plan to be here next Sunday to recap the Mifflin game and preview the Manheim Township game. I think that's pretty much it. Just please make sure you're following us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Wilson Bulldogs, at Wilson Bulldogs Football, or at Bulldog Hour. Subscribe to the YouTube page. It's not necessary for us to do live stuff there, as many of you probably know watching this stream right now, because I found out that I created that account in 2014. So even older page than I thought, but a lot of the local area school districts and the ones throughout the state of Pennsylvania wanting to stream their games and events can't do so live because they don't have enough subscribers. So go on YouTube and search for local school districts and subscribe to their page. You don't have to get the notifications.
Right. Don't click the little bell if you don't want.
Just subscribe to help them out. Let other parents and fans and communities see their teams play. And this isn't just football exclusive. This is everything.
I'm going to take that one step further. Please search out Antietam and do that to help our buddy out over there.
Yeah. The Wilson grad is the athletic director at Antietam, and he is looking to get their page to the 1,000 subscriber limit. And they're getting close, as are other teams in Berks, LL, and Mid-Penn. But just go on there and search for Pennsylvania school districts, high schools, athletics pages, sports pages. Find them, subscribe to them, get these new accounts over the minimum to broadcast live. It's the easiest, quickest thing you can do to help. It's free to watch. So if they're using YouTube, I think that they have to be free unless they're putting it behind a paywall. But I highly doubt that.
If they're broadcasting on YouTube, like if a high school is broadcasting on YouTube, they're not putting it behind that.
So go help out these other schools. Oh, Minersville was looking for help too. They were closing on 1,000. We got
awesome new helmet this year.
Awesome new helmet this year and connections with John Gursky. So just go out and help these school districts, these high schools, these athletic programs, these extracurricular activities. You know, we're supporting the students, student athletes, and doing what they're doing. It's such a simple thing you can do to help out, get these events in front of as many eyeballs as possible. Like I said, when I get information on how the game is being streamed, if anyone is going to be allowed in at the gate, I wouldn't hold my breath there. But I'm just saying, any information that comes out that I am given or hear, I will post on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as soon as I know it. So just be calm, relax, know that you will be able to watch the game in some way. It's doubtful that it's going to be in person at Gursky, but you should be able to at least stream it. And as soon as I have all that information, I will let you know. All right. Is that it? Are we done?
That's it.
All right. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys again in 1 week's time.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Bulldog Hour. Want more Wilson football? Follow the show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud, or visit www.bulldoghour.com. The Bulldog Hour is a featured program on jmnjrradio.com.